then there's the extreme violence that's been taking place. The extreme violence. We're going to get into that too. Because it's just out of control. I mean, kids, 10-year-old just murdered two of his family members, an 81-year-old man and a 31-year-old woman over a video game. 5 kids over in the UK beat an 81-year-old retired factory owner to death. He was just walking his dog. These kids beat him to death. Ages range between 12 and 14 years old. Beat this man to death over in the UK. It's just a lot going on. It's really sad. Even with the kids, they found a family of 4 murdered in their home. Look, they said, I think they've been shot and burned. Their bodies burned, and they were left in their basement, and they are on the hunt. If they haven't found the people already responsible for that, but the police are looking for the people who killed that family of 4. It was a boy and a girl, and a mother and the father, the husband and wife, family of 4. In Hawaii, it was a fight, a family gathering, in which the neighbor came over and drove a front-end hauler into the cars and houses of the people having the gathering. They were having some type of neighbor feud among the neighbors. And this man, 58 years old, drove a front-end hauler into them people's cars and houses, and 4 people ended up getting killed and 2 people getting injured. The 58-year-old ended up losing his life because a 42-year-old man that lived in the house shot him to death. Then there was the 2 co-workers that went to work. They went to work, got into an argument, killed each other. Both of them killed each other in Sarasota, Florida. Then there's what's another one? Another story. It's just so much wickedness. The lady, this 23-year-old young lady who shot 2 women and uploaded on Facebook because they had been fighting and beefing for a while. And the girls came and was confronted the 23-year-old suspect and was busting out her windows and had a knife and was attacking her. So she was uploaded on Facebook like, okay, I'm defending myself because they are attacking me. And she ended up shooting both of them. One of the girls ended up dying. The 29-year-old ended up dying 6 weeks later. And now the girl is having to deal with that. But in a way, I believe that was self-defense because they were legitimately attacking her. So that was up in Ohio, in Cincinnati, I believe. And then there's another and we talked about the 2 families, in the house. Then over in the Congo, 129 prisoners ended up getting killed trying to escape from out of a prison in Kinshasa. Women were getting raped. Inmates were getting raped, and they set the prison on fire. 129, no, they said more than 129. They said over 150 inmates ended up losing their lives getting killed in Kinshasa, in the Congo. Also over in the Congo, 50 defendants are on trial right now, facing the death penalty for trying to put on, for a failed insurrection. They tried to storm the presidential palace over in the Congo, and I guess it didn't work out, and they didn't succeed, and now they're on trial. 50 of them facing the death penalty, and 3 of them are Americans. So they did just like Trump's supporters, Trump people did when they stormed the Capitol, but with them over there, they facing the death penalty for what they did. There's just a lot going on, a lot. It's just wickedness, and exceedingly evil wickedness. The hearts of men, what the Bible said, they'll wax cold in the end time. A lot of wickedness going on. Oh, and then the demon that killed the 4 sleeping in Chicago. He boarded, this is a 30-year-old, I don't know if he's mentally ill, or he's just a demon-possessed evil person, or he was just homeless himself and didn't care. He didn't mind going to prison because, you know, then he would be off the street and have food to eat and a place to stay, or what. I don't know what was going through this man's mind to make him get on the blue line in Chicago, the subway train, and murder 4 people, 3 men and a woman, sleeping on the subway train. He just shot him, killed him in cold blood, and they arrested him for that. 30-year-old young man in Chicago. And with the migrants, that has been confirmed by police in Colorado, that the migrants are up there engaging in criminal activity because 4 of them got arrested in Colorado. They are also engaging in criminal activity in Chicago and New York. So 3 cities, or 3 states, these migrants, Venezuelan gangs, are taking over. And so far, it has been confirmed by Colorado police that, yes, they are up there acting a fool. Okay? So, yeah. It's a lot going on.
Tragedy struck in the city of Minden early Sunday morning when police responded to a double homicide on Austin Street. Police say they are in the early stages of their investigation.
In a Facebook post, the city says in part, his years of service to Minden were marked by his commitment and dedication to the betterment of our community, end quote. Tonight, the shooting still remains under investigation, and KSLA crews are on scene right now. We'll share new details coming up tonight at 10.
Just after 6 a.m. on September 1st, police responded to a home in Minden after neighbors reported hearing arguing followed by gunshots. Upon entering the home, they would discover an unresponsive adult male and an adult female.
A juvenile is in custody after admitting to shooting and killing 2 people in Minden. The shooting happened on Austin Street around 6:30 this morning. Police say 2 bodies were found inside the home, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. During investigation, a 10-year-old juvenile confessed to the murders of both victims.
The victims were identified as former Minden Mayor, 82-year-old Joe Cornelius, and his daughter, 31-year-old Keisha Miles, who were both sadly pronounced dead at the scene after succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds. Cornelius was a longtime member of the Minden City Council who was appointed mayor for a time in 2013 after the previous mayor died. He was also a former sheriff's deputy and marshal. A pillar of the town's Black community, Cornelius was a former funeral home worker who had run programs for youth and helped launch local Black history observations. Joe Cornelius' years of service to Minden was marked by his commitment and dedication to the betterment of his community.
The Minden community mourns the loss of 81-year-old former Minden council member and interim mayor Joe Cornelius.
I mean, everyone's devastated at this moment. Everyone's devastated. It really hit our city hard. It really did.
Many say that he was an impactful leader to many.
He was a great man in the community, man. I mean, since we were kids.
Ice cream man?
He was the ice cream man. I mean, camping trips. He did a lot for the community.
I hate that when he's gone now, and he was a great man, a great person.
Cornelius served the town of Minden in many ways, like founding the Concerned Citizens of Minden organization, serving the Webster Parish Sheriff's Office, and much more.
I hate that when he's gone now, and he was a great man, a great person.
The shocking element of this crime is that a 10-year-old boy, who is a relative of both victims, has reportedly confessed to committing the murders. As police continue to investigate the crime, Chief McIver noted that 2 guns were found at the scene with empty magazines. According to a neighbor who also happens to be a relative of Joe Cornelius, the child was familiar with the layout of the home and knew where Cornelius hid the weapons. Apparently, the 10-year-old relative was autistic, and he and Cornelius were arguing over credit card charges used to purchase video games. The child was described as appearing scared, but with the mindset to commit a crime like this, although it is still unclear what the motive behind the killings just might be. The boy, whose name has not been released due to his age, was taken into custody and was accompanied by his grandmother, who was his legal guardian, during questioning. As authorities try to unravel the motive and circumstances behind this tragic incident, many questions remain unanswered. The incident has left the community in shock as they mourn the loss of Joe Cornelius, a man remembered for his dedication and commitment to making Minden a better place, and his daughter, known by many as a sweet and kind woman, who was simply trying her best day by day.
Man, they gunshot. It was pow, 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 and then pow, 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 pow.
Just after 6 Sunday morning, Minden police were called to a home on Austin Street. Inside the home, police found two bodies identified as 82-year-old Joe Cornelius and 31-year-old Keisha Miles. Both suffered from multiple gunshot wounds. Neighbors are shocked and in disbelief.
He was real high respected in the community. He was real, he was sheriff's department, he was the man for a little while, after the man and stuff, and he used to work at the funeral home and stuff and like that. He was a good man. He was a good man.
An investigation led to the arrest of a 10-year-old juvenile who reportedly confessed to the deaths. According to neighbors, an argument broke out between Cornelius and the 10-year-old about credit card charges on video games.
I think that what happened. He was arguing with him. I heard him, hollering and stuff. That was my my cousin. I hated that happened. Over a game and stuff. I don't think that's right. The boy, autism. He was autism.
The Minden Police Department, sheriffs, and marshals were on scene. Cornelius was confirmed to be a former Minden city councilman and a former interim mayor.
And they said Joe got to arguing with him. The boy just pulled a gun out. Joe used to be a sheriff. He had guns because he used to work for the sheriff's department. And the boy know where it was. It's a sad thing.
The current mayor of Minden released a public statement saying, "It is with deep sadness that we mourn the loss of Joe Cornelius Sr., a former longtime Minden city councilman and former appointed mayor of Minden. Joe Cornelius's years of service to Minden were marked by his commitment and dedication to the betterment of our community. On a personal note, I am grateful for his friendship and the many ways he supported me and others in our city. During this incredibly difficult time, I ask that we keep Joe's family in our thoughts and prayers. May they find comfort and strength in the midst of this tragedy. Let us come together as a community to honor Joe's memory and support one another through this time of grief."
A GoFundMe has been created to help cover the unexpected funeral expenses for both victims, offering the community a way to support the grieving family during this tragic time. The 10-year-old is being held on 2 counts of first-degree murder, and it is unclear whether the child has a lawyer to speak on his behalf. He will remain in custody until his court appearance, with authorities still working to piece together the events that led to this heartbreaking incident. The case remains ongoing.
Minden Mayor Nick Cox says he was grateful for his friendship and support. He shared a statement on the city's Facebook page saying, in part, "During this incredibly difficult time, I ask that we all keep Joe's family in our thoughts and prayers. May they find comfort and strength in the midst of this tragedy." Maya Nicholson.
5 children aged between 12 and 14 have been arrested on suspicion of murder after an 80-year-old man died following an assault in a park in Braunstone Town in Leicestershire. The pensioner has been named as Bim Sen Kohli. He died in hospital last night after he was assaulted. Well, joining me now is Sky's Becky Cottrell. Becky, what more can you tell us about this attack?
Well, yeah, we know that he was walking his dog, that was something he did on a daily basis, and that the attack happened near to the entrance of the park, near to which he lived, which would suggest either he'd just set off on his walk or he was just coming back. And it really is shocking to hear the age of those that have been arrested. A boy and a girl aged 14 and a boy and two girls aged 12. And we spoke to a neighbour of Mr. Senkoli's who said that he'd spoken to the family and they said that he had sustained some kind of serious neck injury. But at this point, the police haven't put any more details out about what happened in that attack or how Mr. Senkoli was injured. We also found out from his neighbour a few more details about him. He was originally from India but had lived here for decades. We heard that he was a family man, that he had three children, and also grandchildren, and that he was very fit and used to spend a lot of time on his allotment. And you can hear a bit more from that neighbour who was talking about his friend, Mr. Senkoli.
He was a very good man. Very quiet, very jolly, so he's all right. He never had any problem, never heard anything, shouting, anything like that. Yeah, he's a family man. Yeah, he was a very nice man. Yeah, very nice. It was really shocking what happened, No, I never thought, it would happen like this. It's always this busy park. I never thought they might do this thing like this.
And we've been speaking to people who live around here who are very shocked, as you would expect, by this, but also now fearful for their own safety. This is a park where a lot of people will go out and walk their dogs, particularly the elderly around here. They are now afraid to go out, and really they're looking for more answers from the police as to what exactly happened.
Becky, thank you.
This incident just a day after a deadly mass shooting on a Blue Line train. The suspect now charged with the murders of 4 people. He will be in court for the first time tomorrow. Tonight, the Cook County State's Attorney calling the Labor Day shooting a random attack, as investigators still don't know the motive. Our Sarah Maki was there tonight as police, city, and CTA leaders updated their investigation into 30-year-old Ronnie Davis. Sarah.
Yeah, Erica, officials stopped short of saying that these victims were homeless, but they acknowledged that they were asleep on the train at the time of this attack. Really talking about the many layers of concern for anyone who uses the L. And this is the first time tonight when we heard from the CTA president, Dorval Carter, publicly since these killings.
It is horrific. We want answers. Right now, we don't have an answer as to why anyone would engage in such a heinous, heinous act.
And those answers about motive, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox said, may never come, even as the prosecutor's office prepares to take their suspect to court Wednesday.
I think it is safe to say that this was a random attack.
30-year-old Ronnie Davis facing 4 first-degree murder counts. We found Davis has been arrested several times since 2014. That year, he was sentenced to 2 years probation for a misdemeanor battery charge and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in 2020. Investigators revealing the Glock 43 they found when taking Davis into custody on the California Pink Line Station platform is a forensic match to the 6 shell casings found across 2 cars at the Blue Line Forest Park stop. Investigators tell me they believe Davis started shooting near the Harlem station, one stop prior, wearing a mask at the time. The medical examiner's office identifying victims as 28-year-old Simeon Behesi, 60-year-old Adrian Collins, a 64-year-old woman, and a 52-year-old man.
Dealing with crime on CTA is a very complex issue that involves multiple layers of security and police resources to address it.
CTA President Dorval Carter saying they used the Transit Authority's expansive camera network, adding the new AI gun recognition software, Zero Eyes, launched just last week, did not play a role in the manhunt. That software only scans for firearms on platforms, and Carter said any decision to expand to the trains would come after the pilot is concluded. In just the last hour, we learned that 64-year-old woman has been identified as Margaret Miller. Authorities telling us that they are still trying to find next of kin for the 4th victim. We now know, too, that Ronnie Davis will be in court in Maywood tomorrow at noon. Prosecutors saying at that time they will outline many more facts in their case, as well as talk about Davis's extensive criminal record. Right now from Forest Park, Sarah Maki, CBS News, Chicago.
All right, Sarah, thank you.
from your breaking news and weather authority. This is 13 Wham News at 6.
Horror and heartbreak in Irondequoit. 2 young children and their parents all found dead in their burning home. Police calling it an unthinkable case of homicide.
When you murder innocent children, there's no excuse for it.
Good evening. I'm Karen Edwards. Matt is off. Police releasing new information today on the tragic scene in Irondequoit where a family of 4 was found dead. We have team coverage tonight as we hear from family, friends, and police amid the ongoing search for answers. Irondequoit police becoming emotional today and announcing a family of 4 were found dead in their burning home on Knapp Avenue Saturday morning. The victims, 4-year-old Evangeline Ubaldo Moreno, 2-year-old Sebastian Ubaldo Moreno, and their parents, 26-year-old Marangeli Moreno Santiago and 30-year-old Frame Ubaldo. A family and community in disbelief tonight as police are urging anyone with information to please come forward. We begin with 13 Wham Stephen Pappas. Police giving powerful statements and becoming emotional about this case today, Stephen.
Yeah, Karen, good evening. Irondequoit Police Chief Scott Peters emotional at today's press conference as we got a first real update from Saturday's scene that we now know resulted in the death of a family at their home on Knapp Avenue. A crime scene unlike any other for Irondequoit Police Chief Scott Peters.
This was a horrific scene. In almost 32 years of doing this job, I've never seen anything like it.
Shock and horror from the Irondequoit community. A family of 4 victims of a homicide in their own home.
This is Labor Day. It's supposed to be a joyous day, spending time off with your family. This family doesn't have that anymore. This family is forever going to be, half their family's gone in an instant.
Irondequoit police providing an update on the investigation and naming the 4 family members killed. 30-year-old Frame Ubaldo, 26-year-old Marangeli Moreno Santiago, 4-year-old Evangeline Ubaldo Moreno, and 2-year-old Sebastian Ubaldo Moreno killed early Saturday morning. Chief Peters saying these actions are inexplicable.
Adults do what adults do, but kids are innocent. So take that for what it's worth. Mom was being a mom, protecting her children. Dad, I can't say, but nobody should ever be able to do this or be able to think that they could do that to a child.
The chief saying that his department is dealing with a lot at the moment between the investigation and trying to keep a community together, and says those responsible will be caught.
We wanted to make sure that we went floor to floor and didn't miss any piece of information that needed to be collected to ultimately bring these monsters to justice.
Now, this is an ongoing investigation with more information expected in the future. Anybody who can help police is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 423-9300. Karen?
Stephen, thank you. Our Carly Miner spoke with family and friends today who shared more about the tragedy. Carly.
Yeah, Karen, loved ones are now desperate for answers after first responders found the victims early Saturday morning. A heartbroken family enduring an unimaginable loss. 4-year-old Evangeline Ubaldo Moreno, 2-year-old Sebastian Ubaldo Moreno, their 26-year-old mother, Marangeli, and 30-year-old Frame Ubaldo were all found dead inside their burning home on Knapp Avenue early Saturday morning. Police say they were victims of a homicide. Relatives say the couple had been together for nearly 6 years and were parents of the 2 children. Luis Moreno is the father of 26-year-old Marangeli Moreno Santiago. In a statement, Luis says, "She was a sweet girl, very dependable, a great mom. Everything was for her kid, you know." Police say the initial call came in as a house fire just before 5:30 Saturday morning. Investigators have spent the last 2 days going in and out of the home, going door to door asking neighbors for any information. The godmother of the 2 children, Miss Weeks, is Moreno Santiago's best friend. She got choked up talking about the family. In a statement, she says, "I'm like coming to reality now, but it's still like kind of a shock. Like I lost my best friend, I lost my godkids. I've been asking myself why? Why them? Why them? I just don't get it." A memorial with flowers and teddy bears are growing outside the home on Knapp Avenue. Karen?
Hey, Kyle and Paula, and I need to warn you, the video in this story may be disturbing. Now, this is what the suspect, Akira Fletcher, posted on Facebook on Friday afternoon. She included 2 videos. One of them shows the shots that would end up being fatal. Fletcher tagged Local 12, giving her account of what happened. By the next morning, she was booked into jail.
Hit me again.
4 shots, 1 woman dead, another injured, and the woman recording in jail. And this video will likely be part of the evidence against Akira Fletcher. This was the crime scene on the early morning of July 12th. Police taping off an SUV with a flat tire surrounded by shattered glass in the middle of a parking lot where 2 women were shot on Reading Road in Avondale. Fletcher says these were the moments leading up to the shooting.
You going to jail? I don't give a.
The woman in pink is 29-year-old Naima Norton. Fletcher was recording when she allegedly shot Norton and another woman, also seen in the video. Norton died 6 weeks later. The fatal confrontation playing out on Fletcher's phone.
I have a gun in my purse. They trying to make me out the car. She's busting my window again.
In her Facebook post, Fletcher claims she was being, quote, attacked by Norton. At one point, Norton appears to be holding a knife and then a rock.
I don't give a. They're going to jail. She just threw another rock at me, as you can see. She's slashing my tires.
Eventually, the 2 women begin walking away, but Fletcher gets out of the car and is heard threatening them before they walk back toward her.
You should be happy. You should be happy you don't get clapped. You should be happy you don't get clapped.
That recording stops as Fletcher starts to move her car. The next video begins with Fletcher's window shattered and Norton approaching her car. It ends with gunshots and Norton on the ground. A complaint filed in Hamilton County Municipal Court shows there was an ongoing beef between Norton and Fletcher. In May, Norton was accused of pointing a gun at Fletcher and threatening to shoot her. Both women were due in court for that case tomorrow.
From breaking news to feel-good stories, Local 12 has it all. Tap subscribe and click the links for more content like this.
They were supposed to be working together, but instead Sarasota police say an argument caused 2 colleagues to kill one another. Their bodies were found inside a home this morning on Lido Key. It's left the island community in shock. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon reports officers are still trying to piece together what caused the men to turn on one another.
Tuesday morning, Sally Esther walked out her front door and found crime scene tape.
I was taking my trash out, and that's when I saw all the officers' vehicles.
Officers with the Sarasota Police Department lined the 700 block of South Boulevard of the Presidents on Lido Key. 2 men, a 32-year-old and a 50-year-old, were found dead at this rental.
And I found out some information and just a very, very scary answer that I got, and it's just really sad what happened.
Sarasota police say someone who had access to the home found the men around 9 this morning.
They got into some sort of argument. What it appears is that in this incident where they were arguing, they did end up taking each other's lives. So it's a very tragic situation.
Investigators say the men were co-workers and had come to the area for work.
They were not working on this house. It looks like they were possibly coming here for work, and their employer had booked them a stay here.
Surveillance video from inside and outside the home is giving investigators a look into what happened, but they say there is still more to uncover.
It would be logical to assume that they each were armed. So again, we're very early on in the investigation. We don't have both weapons.
Officers found 1 knife on scene, and for those who live here, it's a tragic situation they're still trying to comprehend.
I feel bad for the families. I feel bad for these 2 men. I feel bad that this incident had happened, especially on our quiet little Lido.
Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
The medical examiner's office has identified the men involved, and officers are now working on notifying their families. Their cause of death won't be official until an autopsy is complete.
4 people are dead. 2 others were injured after the deadly shooting in Waianae Saturday night.
Honolulu police say it appears to have started with a dispute between neighbors that got out of control. Casey Lund is live in Waianae with details about the gun violence. Casey.
Yeah, good morning, Grayson. Good morning, Steve. Really a tragic situation, the latest in a string of gun violence incidents here on the west side that leaders say needs to change. This is not related to any of those previous incidents as far as we know. Now, before we get to the details of what happened again, 4 people dead, 3 of them women, 1 man. We want to give you a warning. We're going to play some video here that came into our newsroom yesterday. It is difficult to watch, but it shows the moments that unfolded around 11 Saturday night. That's when many calls came into 911 saying one of the residents here was driving a front-end loader, pushing cars into homes. Yeah, and again, you can hear the screaming, you can hear those gunshots, very disturbing. Officials say victims tried to flee when that 58-year-old male suspect who was operating the front-end loader opened fire. HPD says at some point during this exchange, a 42-year-old male who was a resident of the home that those cars were being pushed into had a handgun and fatally shot that driver of the front-end loader. Upon arrival, HPD found 5 people total sustained gunshot wounds. 3 of them did not survive. Women ages 34, 36, and 29. They were pronounced dead at the scene. The surviving victims, a 35-year-old man and a 52-year-old woman, they were both taken to the hospital after being shot. Honolulu Police Chief Joe Logan said it's not the first time they've responded to disputes between the two families. We've also reached out to residents and neighbors in the area. One person we talked to didn't want to be identified. We did change and alter their voice because they're afraid of retaliation.
One side had a daughter and one side had a son, and they were dating. And maybe when they fight, they would just have, conflict of that nature.
They're one of the first families to have property up here. So, yeah, known families.
Police discovered that the front-end loader was carrying 4 55-gallon drums containing some kind of unknown fuel. They say that some witnesses reported seeing the suspect shoot rounds into those drums. Police say the 42-year-old man who was shot, the 42-year-old man who shot the suspect that was driving the front-end loader was arrested for second-degree murder. This morning and yesterday, we've been hearing from leaders sharing their concerns. We heard from Andrea Tupola. She is the city council person for the West Side. The incident was traumatic, she says, and everyone involved will need resources and support from family as well as professionals. When the time is right, I'll assist the families with support in whatever way I can to comfort those affected. Of course, we will continue to keep you updated as we learn more. We're trying to get the condition of those 2 people that were shot and survived. We've been out here in Waianae talking to people. I talked to a woman who lives in that neighborhood. She says the home in question here hosts large parties. It's been a nuisance for a while. We're trying to get more details on exactly what transpired between these 2 different groups that led to such a tragic incident. We'll keep you updated again online and on air right here on Hawaii News Now. We'll send things back to Steve and Grace for now.
All right, thank you, Casey.
7:37 right now.
But let me say this about the migrants. And they are trying to go into these cities and think that they can conduct themselves the way they've been conducting themselves in their own countries. And that's not how it works in America. Because what's going to happen is the people here in America are going to start fighting the migrants back. And it will be so much civil unrest here in this country because Americans are going to get so fed up with these migrants coming over here, draining the resources, driving down wages, and just engaging in all kind of criminal cartel activities and just thinking they could just turn this into a third world country. Americans will not tolerate it. It's going to be just like the Europeans are doing over there right now. They are fed up and they are burning down migrant hotels. They are attacking migrants. They are rioting in the streets. It's just a powder keg at this point over here. And that's because these politicians let this stuff get too far. They let it go too far. They just sat there and let that border crisis get out of control. And now you got these migrant gangs and probably cartels, participating in all this human smuggling, bringing drugs into this country. And it's just gotten out of control. People are losing their jobs here in America left and right, and then what the little jobs that's left here, what jobs that are left here, they don't pay enough to live off of. And then a lot of these big companies, they're having mass layoffs and shipping a lot of the jobs overseas. And people are just tired because the American dream was nothing but a lie. It was a Ponzi scheme. All the massive student loan debt that people have, it was all just one big Ponzi scheme and a lie to keep you enslaved to debt, to keep the average American person enslaved to debt. And now people are beginning to see that now. Capitalism capitalism kills countries. They say socialism, all these capitalists are saying it's socialism and communism kills countries. No, capitalism and the unequal distribution of wealth is what kills countries. Racism is what kills countries. Moral decay is what kills countries. And America is in free fall right now. It's not going to last too much longer at the way things are going. It's just not. And that's not to make, strike fear in people. It's just letting everybody know that, these are Bible prophecies unfolding right before our eyes. We're witnessing end-time Bible prophecies being fulfilled every day. And that's why you have to keep watch and pay attention. Jesus said, pay attention to the things around you. Watch how this world is operating. Because it ain't too much. And I know people, they always say that. They said that 200 years ago. We didn't have much time left. Listen, we ain't got much time left. The birth pains are getting worse. They're getting worse. I mean, it's more intense, more frequency. Birth, that Jesus said it's going to happen like that. So we're just trying to tell y'all, let you know, because we love you. We don't want to see nobody. They said God, the Bible said God don't want to see nobody perish. And I don't either. I don't want to see nobody perish, especially my loved ones. Nobody. So take it for what it's worth, y'all. Yeah.
An illegal migrant from Honduras was arrested after he was accused of stabbing a teenage girl at a baseball game in Indiana on Saturday.
This coming as a new report reveals migrants are making up 75% of the arrests in some parts of New York City.
Multiple arrests with the same people. Griff Jenkins is here with more. Griff.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Look, the border crisis really hit home in the Midwest this weekend. Let's start there. Previously deported illegal immigrant from Honduras was arrested Sunday, authorities said, following an intense manhunt in Indiana after he was deemed a person of interest. Here he is. You see him, Dimas Gabriel Yanez, 26 years old. Now, the Lake County Sheriff's Office says the manhunt began Saturday after a 14-year-old girl was stabbed in the hand with a butcher-style knife while at her brother's baseball game. When the girl's mother tried to help, the migrant also tried to stab her before fleeing. Now, the teen girl is okay, was treated and released from a hospital. Yanez was apprehended Sunday after cops spotted him running through a cornfield. Investigators said he was in the process of trying to cut his hair to change his appearance and evade law enforcement. The sheriff's office said Yanez had been previously deported to Honduras in 2018 and, quote, may have been engaged in criminal activity across the United States since returning illegally illegally. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, Ainsley, in New York, police sources tell the New York Post 75%, 3 out of 4 arrests in Midtown Manhattan for crimes like assault, robbery, domestic violence are migrants. In parts of Queens, they say the figure's more than 60%. And guess what? They blame sanctuary laws for the spike. And it's interesting to point out, Mayor Eric Adams has been calling on the city council to change those sanctuary laws, try and get it under control. And finally, if you dig a little deeper in this New York Post article, it talks about the rise of that Tren de Aragua, that dangerous Venezuelan gang that's taken a foothold in parts of the country like Aurora, Colorado, and in New York City. Remember, they were tied to the shooting of 2 NYPD officers. They say this threat is growing by the day. Guys?
And Griff, in that New York Post article, it also talks about these same migrants who game the system to come into the country. They know exactly how the system works in the sanctuary cities. They'll go steal some stuff. They know they're going to get arrested, but they'll be out in 15 minutes.
That's right. In fact, there's a quote in the article from a anonymous person that works in the courts that says, come Mondays, it's all migrants.
Right.
Guys?
Thanks, Griff.
Thank you, Griff. If you read that article, too, it talks about a 31-year-old migrant. He came into this country earlier this year, been arrested 5 times.
Right.
Latest arrest was arrested for walking into the Target store and getting some pants
and a beer.
And they arrested me, said I wanted to change my clothes and sit down and think.
I didn't know Target sold beer.
Well, and it's not just the Tren de Agua within Aurora that is going back, and I don't know what the interim police chief is talking about in Aurora, saying, oh, it's really not a problem. You got city council members, community members showing video of them.
And the governor says that too.
The governor is saying this nonsense. He wants to be president one day, by the way, saying that it's different apartment complexes that they're taking over. Now there's reporting going on in Chicago that the gangs within Chicago and the Tren de Agua are going back and forth. So we got a crisis.
Wait, so American gangs are fighting foreign gangs?
Back and forth.
Fantastic.
Great.
You know, Charlemagne the God, when I interviewed him, he said the crazy thing that he was getting people telling him that the gangs are taking on gangs. That's where New York is heading, but you're saying Chicago headed there first.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
First today, we did learn that 4 Venezuelan gang members have been arrested in Arapahoe County.
Fox 31's Vicente Arena speaking to the Arapahoe County Sheriff about how that unfolded. He joins us live from the Sheriff's Office with new information here at 5. Vicente.
Jeremy, we have been talking to the sheriff today, asking a lot of questions about how this all came to be. And one of the main things that they shared with us today is that they focused on an area where there had been problems with crime. In other words, trouble had been brewing there.
The Arapahoe County Sheriff's deputies focused its community policing efforts on this swath of apartment complexes. They're located near South Quebec Street and East Harvard Avenue in unincorporated Arapahoe County. Officers from the Sheriff's Department, ICE, and the Department of Homeland Security blanketed the area on August 21st.
We're looking for any violation that we can stop and make contact with somebody and address any issues that they might have.
The teams were looking for, among other things, stolen vehicles and persons wanted by other jurisdictions. This proactive operation took place where there had been 2 officer-involved shootings and a SWAT situation over the last 5 years.
There had been some conversation that there were some things going on in our jurisdiction, and we developed a plan. 6
people were arrested. 4 of them, the sheriff said, were confirmed members of the Tren de Aragua gang out of Venezuela. 750 counterfeit pills, some ketamine, and a stolen car were confiscated. The arrests come at a time when news of alleged crimes gang members have been committing in Aurora has been making headlines. The Arapahoe sheriff says he's hoping the arrests here keep problems with gangs from getting any worse.
And that's the whole idea, stop the problem before it gets out of control. Another question I asked the sheriff today, could we see other community proactive police operations like this in the future? He said, you bet, especially if they learn that there are gang members involved. Reporting live at the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, Vicente Arenas, Fox 31.
All right, Vicente.
The city of Aurora is contradicting itself on the extent of Venezuelan gang activity in that city. The mayor told Fox News this week the gang is collecting rent at a troubled apartment complex. The interim police chief, in a video press release, says that's not happening.
It's an intimidation factor. We've got
Venezuelan gang members who have gone into an apartment complex where there's a concentration of Venezuelans and pushed out the property management through intimidation, and now they're intimidating the tenants there to pay them the rent and probably extort other things from them.
I'm not saying that there's not gang members that don't live in this community, but what we're learning out here is that gang members have not taken over this complex. We've really made an effort to the last few days to just really ask the specific questions and the direct questions in terms of the gang activity.
Another thing, y'all, if y'all been watching the news, they took the United States, confiscated the private jet of the president of Venezuela. What is his name? Mudano, whatever his name is. America took his jet, confiscated his jet. What is that all about? Do they suspect he's engaging in some type of terrorist activity, some type of human smuggling, drug smuggling, or is he bringing migrants over here on his private jet? Is he bringing sleeper cell members on his private jet? Because y'all know a lot of those illegals and a lot of those spies and those agents and those terrorists and those sleeper cells enter the country through South America, through Venezuela, through Mexico, through all of those countries down in South America. So why did they take that president's jet? There's something going on with that. Oh, and I don't know, we talked about the stock market crashed. Stock market crashed. So they lost over $1 trillion. I don't know if I mentioned that already. Over $1 trillion wiped out. Gone. End times. One world currency coming soon to a country near you. That's what BRICS is about. That's why all the countries are they said like 200 countries trying to join BRICS, trying to diminish the American dollar. Yep. So yeah. All right, y'all. I think something else. I'll probably post something else, but yeah, y'all. Stay vigilant and watch. Keep watch and just know that Jesus is on his way back here. So stay prayed up. Pray for your loved ones, your family and friends, that everybody can be saved when he does come. Cause it's getting down to the wire, y'all. I'm telling you. All right, let me get off here. God bless. I'm running out of time on this thing.
Long-time tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela took a strange turn yesterday when the U.S. seized a plane used by Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, and then flew that plane to Florida. It comes as Maduro's government is cracking down on opposition leaders after the recent disputed election there. Christian Benavides is in Fort Lauderdale for us covering this. Christian, good morning. What's going on?
Tony, good morning. Well, this aircraft is essentially Venezuela's version of Air Force One. Maduro has been using it on state visits worldwide. Now, this seizure comes as the country is still reeling from their disputed elections earlier in the year, and U.S. officials hope it sends a strong message to the Maduro regime.
This morning, Nicolas Maduro's plane is in the hands of the U.S. Officials seized the jet, which was allegedly purchased violating U.S. sanctions. According to the Justice Department, the Dassault Falcon 900EX was initially seized in the Dominican Republic and brought to Fort Lauderdale, Florida on Monday.
The U.S. financial system is not the plaything for the corrupt and powerful individuals, and we will enforce OFAC sanctions and money laundering.
The department says the seizure of Maduro's plane was months in the making. Maduro's associates in late 2022 and early 2023 arranged to purchase the aircraft from a U.S. company in South Florida, valued at $13 million at the time, according to the Justice Department. The plane was then shipped to the Caribbean and then to Venezuela, where it was used for Maduro's official state visits and government business. In a statement, the Venezuelan government denounced the seizure, calling the move a recidivist criminal practice.
These measures that the U.S. government is taking are part and parcel
of what we're likely to see more and more.
Florida International University professor Eduardo Gamarra is an expert on Latin America. He says the U.S. is looking to pressure the regime following July's disputed elections. Maduro claimed victory, but the U.S. and other countries have said Maduro tampered with the results.
This is now a full, blatant dictatorship. They're not in any mood to negotiate.
Overnight, Venezuela issued an arrest warrant for Edmundo Gonzalez. That's the opposition candidate that the U.S. sees as the legitimate winner of their election. Nate?
Kristen, thank you.
On Tuesday, the prosecutor in a military tribunal into an attempted coup in DR Congo requested the death penalty for most of the defendants. 51 defendants are on trial in the capital Kinshasa for the events of May 19th, when dozens of people, led by the now deceased Congolese political exile Christian Malanga, tried to overthrow the government. The attempted coup failed, with Malanga as well as several innocent people ending up killed. Among the defendants now on trial are 3 Americans, among whom is Malanga's own son, as well as 1 British, 1 Canadian, and 1 Belgian citizen. The military prosecutor said on Tuesday that almost all of the defendants, including the foreign nationals, should be sentenced to death for their alleged role in the crimes. The lawyer representing the Congolese government in the case told us that the request for capital punishment is appropriate.
What kind of country is this where children go to get instruction somewhere else? They get brainwashed elsewhere. And then they come here and take up arms against their own country. The prosecutor has just recommended sentences which are severe. But it's up to the tribunal to rule on the sentence that is appropriate for each offense.
The prosecutor has also demanded that the defendants pay a massive $250 million in damages. After the defense pleads its case, the judges in the military tribunal will convene to decide the penalty. But the case could drag on, as any decision is almost certain to be appealed.
Inmates posted these images from inside Makala prison, the largest jail in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Partially clothed bodies are heaped on the ground, and bullet wounds can be seen on some of them. People living close to the prison say they heard gunfire before dawn on Monday, but police backup was slow to arrive.
Only the prison guards were firing. The police arrived late. Before 5 o'clock there were no police. We could see people running away, prisoners escaping. We didn't understand anything until we noticed they'd blocked the road. There was no access.
At the height of the attempted prison break, the administrative building was on fire, and officials say some female prisoners were raped. Congolese media reported more than 150 prisoners have been killed. Government says the situation is now under control after initially suggesting there were only 2 deaths. It promised to punish what it called acts of sabotage.
Là, nous avons responsabilisé une petite commission.
We have set up a small commission, which is in the process of following up, especially the follow-up of the investigations, because it must be remembered that there was damage, loss of human life, injuries, and especially material damage at the central prison.
Makala prison has been plagued with overcrowding for years, detaining up to 15,000 inmates, 10 times the capacity it was built to hold. More than 4,000 prisoners escaped the facility after armed men stormed the building in 2017. This time, it seems a bid for freedom has ended in tragedy. Barbara Ngopa, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
From the Seeds of Wisdom team, NewsHound News breaking news. Over $1.05 trillion wiped out from the US stock market today. Alternate opening. None saw this coming. Over $1.05 trillion vanished from the US stock market today. The S&P 500 plummeted by over 2%, marking its sharpest decline since August. Technology stocks, especially chipmakers like Nvidia, took a massive hit. Investors are in a frenzy with the CBA Volatility Index, Wall Street's fear gauge, surging. Treasury yields are falling, hinting at a potential rate cut by the Federal Reserve. September is off to its worst start since 2015 for the S&P 500 and 2002 for the Nasdaq 100. Amidst the chaos, some analysts see buying opportunities. Earnings growth in specific sectors and controlled inflation offer a glimmer of hope. But the overall market sentiment, cautious. All eyes are now on the upcoming jobs report. This could heavily influence the Federal Reserve's next move on interest rates. Stay tuned for more updates as we navigate this market turmoil together. Follow Seeds of Wisdom team.
Better pay, healthcare, and workloads.
Contract! When do we want it? Now!
That's what more than 10,000 housekeepers, cooks, and staffers say they're spending their Labor Day on picket lines demanding. In Greenwich, Connecticut, Boston, San Francisco, Seattle, San Jose, and even Hawaii. This as the workers' union approves strikes in additional cities later this week.
It's hard to build savings. We're living oftentimes paycheck to paycheck.
You've given this company 25 years.
Yes.
Are you surprised that this is where you are 25 years later on a picket line?
Yeah, that's why first time we do that, because how they treat the people is not make sense.
The strikes center around Hyatt, Marriott, and Hilton hotel chains. Tonight, Marriott has not responded for requests for comment, while the Hyatt and Hilton both say they are willing to continue negotiations.
We're all in this together.
Today, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont supporting the workers.
They took some real hits during COVID, just like the hotels did. They flattened their wages. Now give them a chance to catch up.
A mí me duele mucho, me da mucho sentimiento.
Sonia, a Hyatt housekeeper, tells me it hurts me a lot. It makes me emotional. With staffers walking off the job, many hotels are modifying services and amenities. But some guests say they understand.
Sure, they really got to the point of being fed up. People like to work and have fair wages.
And Antonia, as we see those protesters there behind you, you mentioned other cities may soon see these demonstrations as well?
That's right. New strikes have been authorized in New Haven, Providence, and Oakland, and could begin in just a couple of days. This, of course, coming as the travel industry experiences major increases over last year, Tom.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
United Airlines flight attendants today voted to authorize a strike if contract negotiations continue to hit a dead end.
With the November deadline looming, Andrew Ramos reports that as many as 28,000 workers could end up on the picket line.
Well, today, United flight attendants gave a very overwhelming thumbs up to authorize a strike where 99.9% of its workforce voted yes. It's the first time in nearly 20 years that United flight attendants voted for a strike authorization. It's a move the workers' union, the Association of Flight Attendants, says was fueled by inaction by the Chicago-based carrier to negotiate in good faith, where they've been working with an amended contract since 2021. Flight attendants have been asking for a double-digit base pay increase, as well as pay upgrades for schedule flexibility, on-ground duties, and retroactive pay. Many flight attendants say the current wage is not enough, especially as the cost of living continues to rise in major cities like Chicago and San Francisco. In a statement to CBS News Chicago, a spokesperson for United says both sides have been actively engaged in these negotiations, facilitated by the federal mediator, saying they remain eager to reach an agreement, but the union says it's taking too long and they need to act now.
The cost of living is the biggest thing. We need to get those flight attendants to a living wage. The company has the money, they're showing it, they're giving out double digits increases to our executives. Our pilots have just negotiated a contract, and it's high time for the flight attendants to do the same.
They're trying to move people at the bargaining table. And one of the ways, perhaps the best way that the union can do that, is they can say to the airlines, all of our members are behind this. They're not divided.
As of right now, there is no timeline for this strike. The strike authorization, according to the union, simply puts United leadership on notice to come back to the table to negotiate a fair contract for both sides. Reporting from O'Hare, Andrew Ramos, CBS News, Chicago.
Andrew, thank you.
This morning, Americans are paying the price for rising inflation. From the grocery store to housing and transportation, prices were 3.1% higher in January compared to a year ago, which was worse than analysts expected. In response, the Dow plunging 500 points.
While it showed improvement, was not nearly as good as anticipated. Prices are up a lot, so investors were expecting perfection. They didn't get it.
Rent and housing costs increased 0.6%, a major driver of inflation. Getting behind the wheel of a car also more expensive.
It's a lot more to purchase a car, particularly a new vehicle, and because of that, it costs a lot more to get insurance on a car.
Prices for many groceries also on the rise, including cereal and beverages.
We're seeing prices rise for fruits and vegetables. They were up a lot during the month. Soda prices jumped a lot. So all in all, prices for food are growing more slowly than they have been, but there's still, things that we all enjoy where prices are still jumping.
Since January 2020, just before the pandemic, grocery prices are up a whopping 25%, and beef prices could hit a record high this year due to bad weather and feed costs. To keep up with the cost of living, more workers are pushing for higher wages. Flight attendants picketed yesterday. Those at Alaska Airlines have voted to authorize a strike. And today, Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash drivers are planning to strike, demanding higher pay.
Wage growth is now outpacing inflation for most wage groups. Still very uncomfortable for people, and particularly low wage, lower income households. They're struggling with still very high food prices. Rents are a lot higher than they were. The cost of energy and electricity. So kind of basic things that people need.
Now, the bad news on inflation means don't expect the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates anytime soon.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
It was the early 1980s. The name Neutron Jack made people shiver. He wasn't a serial killer or a brutal dictator. He was the CEO of General Electric, a man named Jack Welch. He had a famous strategy. Every year, he would fire 10% of his employees. It was an absolute bloodbath. So they called him Neutron Jack. For Americans, it was unheard of. The 60s and 70s were the era of job security. But here you had a man firing employees at random. In fact, Welch fired 1 out of every 4 GE employees between 1980 to 1985. A total of 250,000 employees lost their jobs in his tenure. And what did he have to say? Well, he had no remorse. In fact, he lauded this method. He called it cutting out the fat and keeping the company lean. Those were his words. CEOs of today may not be as brash, but they're proving to be no different from Neutron Jack. 2023 saw a massive wave of layoffs. In the tech industry alone, 240,000 people lost their jobs. 2024 is off to a brutal start, which means more layoffs could come. So why are companies cutting so many jobs, and are mass layoffs the new normal? Hello and welcome. I'm Palki Sharma, and this is Between the Lines. In 2010, Google was on a roll. Co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page had grown a mammoth company. But at the heart of it, they had a philosophy, putting employees first. So that Christmas, they made an announcement, a 10% raise for all employees, a generous double annual bonus, and a $1,000 Christmas gift. Now, these people were already being paid very well, but Google wanted to appreciate them more. 14 years later, the company may look the same, but the appreciation seems to have run out. A decade ago, it put employees first. Today, it's laying off thousands of people. This week, CEO Sundar Pichai had an ominous warning. Expect more layoffs. That's what he said. In 2023, Google cut 12,000 jobs. That's almost 6% of the workforce. Senior leaders, upper management, employees who've been at the company since the start, everyone lost their jobs. And now Pichai says there is more to come. At the start of 2024, Google cut 1,000 jobs. Why? Pichai says it's about removing layers to simplify execution. Clearly, he used better wording, but the idea is the same as Neutron Jack, trimming the fat. The word layoff was coined in the 1880s. It meant rest or relaxation then. But there's nothing relaxing about it now, and Google is not the only one laying off people. Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, X, that is former Twitter, Yahoo, Zoom, Cognizant, Citibank, Disney, Ford, Nike, Indian companies like Byju's and Paytm, they've all fired people. More than 30% of companies globally chose layoffs in 2023, and there are a few reasons for it. One is a record hiring spree during the pandemic. When COVID struck, people were locked in their homes. They relied more on technology, and tech companies took this as a cue to expand. They hired more workers. They made more investments. They treated it as the new normal. But then the world opened up, and those hirings did not translate into gains. Those extra workers were no longer needed. So resizing became the need of the hour. And companies did just that. Interestingly, the most affected department was HR, or human resources. It made up for 28% of all layoffs, an indication that companies want to cut back on recruitment. Then there's the volatile global economy. Will there be a recession? Will higher inflation persist? Questions like these haunt companies, and they arrive at one solution: cost cutting. Finally, there's the rise of new technology, artificial intelligence. Companies are automating systems. What people did before, AI does now. So will machines replace people? Well, that is the big question. And in some industries, they already have. Does that make mass layoffs the new normal? When tech companies grew in the 2010s, they were all about perks: massage parlors, free buffets, cereal bars, jungle gyms, paying employees to go skiing, live performances by pop stars. You name it, and the companies had it. It was all about keeping employees happy. That was the philosophy. But things have changed in the last couple of years. And not because companies are doing badly. It's because they're chasing bigger profits and bracing for the imminent tech disruption. Take Alphabet, for example, the parent company of Google. Its growth is slower, but Alphabet is not operating at a loss. In the last quarter of 2023, Alphabet recorded profits of over $19 billion. In 2022, it made around $14 billion in the last quarter. So profits have risen. Plus, Alphabet has $116 billion in the vaults. That is in cash, cash equivalents, and marketable securities. So it's not as if the company was doing badly or running at a loss. It was more about changing the way they function. And do you know who were the first people to be fired? 27 in-house massage therapists. I guess on-site massages are no longer trendy. Plus, companies now want to focus on winning products. When Alphabet grew, it had many divisions. There were new products everywhere, and the focus was divided. Google now wants to change that, and it's the same story with a lot of companies. They want to cancel the perks, cut the frills, drop the products that are not working, and prepare for the AI churn. Employees are still being paid well in most cases, but there will be no nap rooms in office. Of course, for those laid off, it's a different story altogether. It could be minor restructuring for the company, but for employees, it changes their life. They have families to feed, homes to maintain, and bills to pay. 78% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck, so they may not have a financial buffer. Also, it's difficult to get hired when you're unemployed. Your choices are fewer, and you tend to be forced to make compromises. Plus, losing your job can be traumatic. In fact, it ranks among the top 10 most stressful life events. And it has an impact on health too. The odds of developing a disease increase by 83% between 15 and 18 months of being laid off. The risk of suicide may increase by nearly 3 times. So layoffs can be headlines or mere statistics for many of us. But these are actual human beings caught in the eye of the storm, and their numbers look set to grow. This year has begun on an ominous note. Google laid off hundreds of employees. Most of them were working on their voice assistant. Amazon laid off a few hundred people. This was in the Prime Video and MGM studios. Language app Duolingo laid off 10% of its contractors. It cited artificial intelligence as the reason. Streaming platform Twitch cut jobs. It fired around 500 people. Citibank is cutting 20,000 jobs. It gives you a sense of deja vu. This is how it started in 2023. So will this year be just as bad? Experts say it may be less brutal. 2023 was an exception. Since then, the job market has steadied, consumer habits have stabilized, so layoffs may not be as bad. But there could be random resizing, like the ones I just told you about. Companies could make smaller cuts. They call it streamlining. But as of now, it's unlikely to turn into a layoff fest. Having said that, we live in a very uncertain world, and with headlines like these, employees would find it hard to rest easy. After all, no one likes to be locked out of emails or become a number in the next layoff headline.
Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its building.
Master, look!
Do you see all these things?
Yes, Master. Yes. Yes.
Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down.
As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately.
Tell us,
they said,
when will this happen and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?
Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming, I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. And you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but whoever stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So, when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, "There he is out in the wilderness," do not go out. Or, "Here he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now, learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. But about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill. One will be taken and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time, and he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.